Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today with me is Amir Ashkenazi, the CEO of Switchboard. We'll talk about Switchboard later, but I want to start by asking you, Amir, what are the biggest challenges for people collaborating in remote settings? Tell me a little bit about your perspective on that.
Yeah, this is a fantastic questions. We were all thrown into remote work about what, 2.5, 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And we had to manage with the set of tools that we had at the time, mostly video
Mm.
conferencing. And I think what made it very difficult is that we've lost some of the things that were obvious for us in the office environment. So, for example, in the office environment, the focus is on content. We immediately
Yeah.
throw in a video conference when the focus is on faces. We like interacting with people side by side, and instead what we got in video conference is one person pitching to all others. We're
Mhm.
used to work simultaneously on multiple tools, and video conferencing is limiting us to one tool at a time. We're regular to an environment, a space, a place
Mhm.
where things are, staying the way you left them. They're permanent.
Yeah.
And what we got is a very ephemeral experience where every meeting starts with zero and ends with zero. And I think all of this together got us very stressed. We've lost the
Mm.
spontaneous communication. And it felt very differently. So luckily for us, it saved the economy during the pandemic. But now it's
Sure.
time to think and develop the new generation of collaboration tools.
Now, a lot of leaders want teams to get back into the office because they feel exactly the problems that you described. They feel that that's a real serious challenge, and they feel, well, we need to get back into the office so that we can collaborate together. But that's creating a lot of pushback where workers clearly like working from home. We have surveys indicating that over 85% of people would choose working from home if they're
Yep.
given the option of doing so. And so they're clearly people are voting with their feet and they're leaving jobs that don't offer remote work options that are the traditional in-office jobs. So what does that say about people's desire to collaborate? Are they clearly they feel comfortable collaborating in video conference software compared to collaborating within in-office environments? What do you think of that?
So let's start with the end. Remote is an opportunity to solve many of the problems that we have. Remote is better personally. This is why
Mhm.
people prefer flexibility. But remote is also a better way to build a company. Switchboard is
Mm.
my sixth company. I started 5 companies before Switchboard. None of them was fully remote. This is the first fully remote. And I can, there's all the discussion about productivity and so on. People
Mhm.
completely ignore the most important aspect of remote is that you as a startup or have the ability to hire people from anywhere. So
Mhm.
the geographical filter of people that live 30 minutes around the office is gone. And
Mhm.
the result is that you end up with ability to hire the best people for any job faster. Um, so this is why the comparison is not as simple of, oh, is people working harder when they're in the office and so on. People need to remember that the ability, especially with startups, it's all about the people.
Mhm.
And the ability to hire better people, more talented, more skillful is really transformational
Mm.
for the team. And I see it in Switchboard. It's the best team I've ever had.
So do you think that there's a difference between startups, which can really focus on talent, and large companies, which are more hierarchical, bureaucratic, maybe they're focused more on systems and processes?
Um, I see it's easier for me to speak about startup because I run a
Mm.
startup and I see the advantages every day. Not even going to the bigger, if you think like world advantages of like solving infrastructure problem and cost of living and big problems
Mhm.
cities and countries struggle with. So when it comes to large companies by definition work remote. They have multiple offices. They need to
Sure.
enable collaboration at a different level. So I think when you actually look at this, 100% of the companies need to learn how to collaborate remotely,
Mhm.
whether they work remote, hybrid, or in multiple offices.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I've helped 21 companies transition to hybrid and remote work. A number of them are in the Fortune 500 range, and they definitely have already before the pandemic have distributed teams, what and that right now we're calling remote work, that had to collaborate with each other. So they didn't have as much disruption as many others because their teams were distributed anyway during the pandemic. They just worked from their homes, but they already never saw their colleagues who were in India or in Singapore or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. So, what you saw and what you learned. So, in your background, you said you ran 5 companies, none of them were fully remote, and Switchboard. So, tell me about that experience running those and then starting Switchboard, which is much more remote.
Yeah. So um, Switchboard was started out of my frustration with guitar lessons, moving from in person to online. You know, in a
Hmm,
guitar lesson, you have a variety of tools. You have notes and a metronome, and going to video conference left with the face of the instructor, which is less helpful than the other tools
sure.
that we need for the lesson. Um, and I wanted the ability to do things side by side with anyone, regardless of
Mhm,
location. So that is the dream that started Switchboard. Before that, I had a career as an entrepreneur in different fields, anywhere from e-commerce to video advertising to artificial intelligence. Started one company that went public and 3 that were acquired by companies like eBay and AOL.
hmm. And so you started Switchboard. Tell me a little bit about how Switchboard addresses some of the challenges that we described in collaboration that Zoom doesn't.
Yeah, so first of all, if you think about Zoom or video conferencing in general, we call them collaboration tools, but they're really just communication tools. They
Mhm,
allow us to see and hear each other. They allow us to maybe share a screen, but that's pretty much it. When we're actually trying to do something together, they fall short. And what we've built with Switchboard is a remote collaboration platform that makes it as good as in person. It
hmm,
lets people work side by side on any tool. They don't need to learn new tools. They don't need to force into viewing things only. They can put anything in the Switchboard canvas and it becomes immediately collaborative. So
hmm,
the advantages of this approach are many. So first of all, you feel immediately like you're in the same room. You work side by
mhm,
side, just like you're in a physical office on any tool on website. And it's all interactive and collaborative. The second thing is that it makes meetings more engaging. So instead
hmm,
of the passive view only mode that you are usually in video conference, you're engaged, you're working, it's
mhm,
interactive. And those rooms are permanent, meaning they stay the way you left them. It's just like a
hmm,
physical room. I have a room for every team I work with, every project I'm engaged in.
hmm.
And when I want to start the next leadership meeting, for example, I just have to click on the leadership room and all of the tools and documents that we need are there, and we could continue from exactly where we left last time.
Hmm.
Another advantage is that it brings back the spontaneous communication. So you can
Okay.
see where the team is, you can see what rooms are active right now, and
Mhm,
you can connect with a click. So you don't need to schedule things in advance. And last but not least, it's a very secure environment because at the core, we run those applications in the cloud browsers. They isolate your local machine from malicious code.
hmm. Okay. Now, I have a lot of clients who are right now trying to figure out hybrid meetings. And so having some people remote, having some people in the office, how does Switchboard play into that situation?
Yeah, hybrid is the most difficult model.
Yeah, it is. That's why I
Remote
asked.
work in the office, fully remote, we're figuring out too. Hybrid is difficult. And the reason is that it's you need to keep everybody on the same page, informed in exactly the same way.
Mhm.
And what I like about Switchboard Rooms is that they keep the the situation. They're the hub for collaboration. They have all of the information and the history of all the conversations. So regardless if you are in the meeting physically or participating from a remote location, you have the same access for information and decision making as anybody else. And I think leaders, a lot of it is about leadership and being intentional about how you manage the team. Um, so, and there are different challenges for remote and hybrid. We can discuss those separately. In
Yeah.
hybrid specifically, you need to make sure that they're all at the same distance, regardless of physical distance, that they all have complete access to the materials, that the voice is heard, that there is no proximity bias, meaning there is no preference for people that are actually with you in the same room.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I find difficult, kind of the proximity bias. When I'm facilitating meetings for clients, the proximity bias is a definite issue, and we have to work hard to create norms and etiquette which address the proximity bias, but it would be great if there were ways that we didn't have to push so hard to address this problem, right? Kind of from a behavioral science perspective, that's kind of my background. I know you have to push against the natural intuition for proximity bias, but that's definitely challenging to keep having to do so.
It is especially challenging when it comes to performance and evaluation, because leaders tend to prefer or evaluate based on what they see. And in the remote environment or hybrid, it is more challenging, but I think it is challenging in actually a very good way, because you don't want to evaluate based on FaceTime hours. You actually want to evaluate the impact. And remote is giving you the opportunity really to be blind of hours on the keyboard or just FaceTime and think about the impact of every single team member.
Talking about blindness, one of the things about remote work that is really interesting and impactful is that it decreases for people who come from underrepresented backgrounds. It decreases microaggressions, it decreases discrimination. Tell me a little bit more about how Switchboard represents different people in their Switchboard environment and how it intersects with diversity, equity, inclusion concerns.
Yeah. The geographical filter that you have to apply when you hire locally is the worst problem with diversity and inclusion. You basically excluded 99% of the population because they don't live in a commute distance from the office. This is why remote has the potential of really helping to solve those problems. We hire all over the US, and without we are getting a diverse set of candidates because we are open to all location. If I was just opening an office in Mountain View, you look 30 minutes from Mountain View and you get pretty much the same socioeconomic background for all candidates. By opening it to the entire country, my pipeline is more diverse. It's easier for me to build a diverse group because I've not limited it with some arbitrary filters that really discriminate against many groups by definition.
Yeah, definitely. My clients who have decided to hire fully remotely all across the country are finding that they're getting a lot more people from underrepresented groups applying for those positions. So Black people, Hispanic people, people with disabilities, of course, not quite right. Much easier for them to work remotely. So we're clearly seeing that with my clients. And I'm wondering if that's something that you're seeing too. The pipeline is naturally more remote naturally more diverse for remote positions because people who come from underrepresented backgrounds prefer, according to research, remote positions more.
Of course.
Mhm.
Yep, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Now, talking about thinking about the future and collaboration, I'm seeing a lot of leaders, kind of older style leaders, people like Elon Musk, maybe people like Jamie Dimon, who are very prominent figures, but they are very traditionalist in how they want to collaborate. They want everyone to be back in the office. And obviously, they don't know how to collaborate very well in remote settings. They think that, well, I need everyone back in the office to collaborate effectively. What do you think is the future for companies that choose not to have remote options as part of their toolkit?
So first of all, we need to be honest. Not all companies can work remote. If you need to build a car, you need to build a car. You need to put all
Sure.
the parts together. Um, Among the companies that can work remote, those
Mhm.
that adopt this style will win the war for talent. It is um, um, very um, one, it is more appealing to the workforce, and you mentioned it yourself, 85% actually prefer the flexibility
Mhm.
that comes with remote. You add this to the fact that you basically open your pool to a much larger set of candidates, and you will see that the remote companies have a substantial advantage when it comes to talent. And I think
Mhm.
that what you will see is that in just a few years, the leading startups are going to be fully remote.
Mhm.
We were forced into it, but we had to learn how to adapt our processes and how to work remote. And you have to be very intentional in everything
Mhm.
that you do. Everything is different. Um, the weekly meeting, the one-on-ones, the performance review, all need to be adapted to remote work. But if you're intentional about this,
Mhm.
I personally believe that it's far superior, and you're going to see, the next Google or the next unicorn coming more often than not from fully remote startups.
Makes sense to me. And it sounds like Zoom and other video conference platforms, they allow a range of collaboration in remote settings. Switchboard allows more collaboration, facilitates more collaboration. I'm curious, from your perspectives, what doesn't Switchboard do that in person still does better than something like Switchboard does?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think we need to be clear that working remote does not mean that you never see other people in your team.
Right.
So we're on a cadence of meeting twice a year.
Mhm.
And we then spend about a week together.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's nice pace.
yeah, and it's important. I don't feel that I miss anything in terms of creativity or productivity. I do think that in-person meeting create a connection, create an opportunity
Mhm.
to know the other person. It creates, a level of commitment between team members that is difficult to create on any digital-only platform. So
Yeah,
this is why we chose to meet twice a year.
that makes sense. Now, as we're wrapping up, is there anything about hybrid and remote work that you still wish to share that I haven't asked? Anything else about Switchboard you wish to share?
Yeah, the amazing thing is that we find more use cases almost on a daily basis. So
Hmm.
currently, people use switchboard rooms for team rooms for those
Mhm.
recurring meetings like stand-ups and sprint planning and so on. And they do it because it saves all the preparation time. The rooms are permanent, as I mentioned, and so on. Then we see different groups using it for project rooms. And that can be to update status or for incident response. We have DevOps
Mhm.
team that the first line in the book is go to the switchboard room because what they have there is all of the telemetry that they need to control the incident find the cause and solve the problem. So that brings speed and clarity to any project and so on. And the last group of rooms that we see and that we're very excited about is all of those that are related to the relationship between companies and their customers. If you think about it, we became very transactional, like interfaces between companies became web interface. We prefer not to talk. There's product-led growth, and we're product-led growth. I love the trend, but it's a very efficient, but we've lost something in the connection between companies by doing so. So we have many customers that choose to open customers room for sales demo and onboarding and training and customer support. And at the end of the day, if you have a problem or a question, there's nothing like sitting side by side with a representative on the other side that can show you how to solve the problem. So that really we've seen proven to reduce customer churn and bring back the deeper connection between a company and their customers.
Sounds like a useful use case. Great. Where can people find Switchboard? What website would you direct them to?
That's easy. Switchboard.app, app. And you can sign up and start using it immediately. There is nothing to download, nothing to install. Every SaaS application and website works out of the gate. There's no integration required, and there is a free trial.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. This was very helpful.
Thank you so much for the conversation.
All right, everyone. This has been another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Again, my name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to leave a review for this podcast, wherever you checked it out, and subscribe to it as well. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. In the meantime, the wisest, most profitable decisions to you, my friends.